A good example of how AI is not deterministic is sometimes people get very excited about deep research mode. I mean, to be very honest, just a marketing term. We need to be sure that we're maintaining our critical thinking skills and not using AI and LLMs in particular to offload our thinking. You know, I am a writer and I write all the time. During times when I've used LLMs more intensively, I can feel my writing muscles getting weaker and weaker.
Yeah, well said. I think it's also something which I keep telling my kids and also in general for everybody, especially the growing generation, because it's important, they don't lose their thinking skills because it's easy to get answers, but it's your creativity is lost. When a company exists specifically on the research and helping the advocacy movement for over 20 plus years, you have a goldmine of data.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but people trust us because we have developed relationships with animal advocacy movement for decades. People know that when they come to Faunalytics and read something on Faunalytics site,
from the 80s to 90s to right now, the Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So do you think Gen Zs are the most compassionate generation?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
What's one research finding that probably shocked you over the years?
Wait, if you've made it this far, I have a feeling you're one of us. You are someone who is clearly into conversations that go deeper about health, lifestyle, and the purpose behind how we choose to live. 60% of people who watch these episodes from Caffelogue with Naga haven't subscribed yet, which means that there are a lot of you who are quietly watching us from shadow. And if you're one of them, why not make it official? Hit that subscribe button. It's free. It just takes a second. And you don't have to stumble upon us by accident. You know where to find us. And while you're here, there are much more meaningful insights and wonderful conversations for you to listen to. So pick one. I promise it will make you think.
We were walking through forests late at night. We were going on to farms at 1 or 2 in the morning, sleeping all day, being awake all night. That was a project that took like an entire year. A cross-Canada mink farm investigation involved going to dozens and dozens of farms across Canada. Or when the investigation was actually released, it just didn't have the impact that we thought it would have. And we were left wondering with why that is.
Why you have moved from the frontline advocacy to more of in the research and being in the back end and trying to help the movement is because the impact is large, or probably it's much more impactful?
In the last 10 years, we've seen a huge explosion in plant-based options in restaurants, in grocery stores, and a lot of the research is finding that it's not necessarily because more people are vegan. A good example of how AI is not deterministic is sometimes people get very excited about deep research mode, which is, I mean, to be very honest, just a marketing term. All it means is that the LLM is doing sort of some extra loops in the background in order to find more information. But one of the fascinating things that I like to do with LLMs is to repeatedly test them on the same topics. And when you start to test an LLM repeatedly on the same questions, you start to realize that every time it answers is different. And that should give you, I really hope that gives most people a reason to pause and to not necessarily take what LLMs are giving us as a definitive answer on anything. So for example, I use the exact same prompt on separate days to ask both Claude and Gemini to give me an assessment of the global aquaculture industry. And the different models on different days all gave me different responses. They might have included some of the same sources and some of the same information, but for the most part, their responses had different angles. They looked at different aspects of the industry. They looked at different regions. They looked at different economic, factors.
Background.
And that was something that was very eye-opening for me, that anytime you are using an LLM, in many ways you're kind of like spinning a wheel of probability, and what you get is based on where the wheel lands. And that doesn't mean that it's not going to give you useful information, but like researching on Google was a long time ago, it's a starting point. It's not an end point. So I think that it has changed research in that it's convinced a lot of people that they basically have like an answer machine that will give them the correct answer to whatever question is they're asking. And that's
Dangerous.
dangerous. Yeah, I think that that's dangerous.
Jinx.
I think that yeah, exactly. I think that there are ways of mitigating that, and I think it's important. I mean, I use AI in my work almost every day, if not every
Mm.
day. But it is largely something I use for more mechanical processes and things like that. When I use it for research, I am very cautious, not only about the sort of the answers that I get, but how much I trust the sort of
Trust the source.
analysis that I'm
Yeah.
getting. Um, yeah.
Got it. You talked about Gemini and Claude. You didn't say ChatGPT now.
To be honest, I mean, ChatGPT was probably one of the ones that I used more at the beginning. Um, and I used Gemini a lot more because of our workspace accounts. Um, I find Claude to be a little bit more tolerable. The voice is more tolerable. I still find it annoying a little bit, but the Chat GPT voice, I just find very annoying.
Yeah, I think it's also sometimes to ask the sources, like from where it's bringing. So anytime when it's brings some answers, right? I think I used to also say, okay, what are the sources you've referred? Like,
Hmm.
then really. Sometimes it just gives link which doesn't work.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, that was a big reason why with the Faunalytics AI tool that we launched recently, the lens,
The lens.
um, part of my goal with that project was to make sure that the citations that it provided were 100% correct. And
Right.
that was a difficult process because what it meant was that we had to restrict the LLM to only drawing on a specific database of Faunalytics resources. Each of those resources in that database were properly tagged and with metadata that allows every claim to be referenced back to a specific article. So the tool is available now, faunalytics.org/lens, LENS, and it is. I'm very proud of how it functions. The caveat, of course, is that it doesn't search the broader internet. It's not retrieving all research that exists. What it is retrieving, though, is research from a very high quality database that is written by people, vetted by people, edited by people, and has been put together over the course of 25 years
25
with
years. Yeah.
animal advocacy effectiveness in mind.
Yeah. I think when a company exists specifically on the research and helping the advocacy movement for over 20 plus years, you have a gold mine of data. You have, so that's
Yeah, yeah.
substantial.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, the library that we've built is, I mean, yes, it's a gold mine of data, but almost more important than that, it is that people trust us because we have developed relationships with the animal advocacy movement for decades, and people know that when they come to Faunalytics and read something on Faunalytics site, that we have put a lot of human effort into making sure that that it's relevant to the work that they're doing, that it contains insights that are useful for them, and that the information is accurate. That trust relationship, when we were developing our own AI tool, we wanted to make sure that it didn't jeopardize that trust relationship. We wanted people to be able to trust an AI tool that we release as much as they trust all of our work. And so
Right.
what was really important in that process was making sure that the LLM that is drawing on our resources was really focused, very, very like purpose built to give the most accurate answers possible.
True. I think you made a very important point. Is trust. So that's lacking in the world of AI today. So and specifically to decide which information to trust or which source of information is right. So yeah, it's important. I think my next question was on lens. I think you covered it. Somehow you read my mind. So I said, why does lens matter? And so you kind of covered it beautifully, leading to that with your answer. So I think everybody should leverage lens. I think how long was the project to go live?
Yeah, it's been developing over the course of the past year or so. So last year, kind of around this time last year, Stray Dog Institute was looking for organizations to participate in a project to create MCPs. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It's a way to connect your LLM it's a way of integrating a tool into your LLM. And once we had created a Faunalytics MCP that was part of this, we took every single URL on the Faunalytics website, scraped it, and converted it into this specific kind of mathematical database. Once we had the MCP going, we started to develop a system prompt that we could use with Claude, where it would answer our questions in a particular way. Um, it would give us an answer to the question, but it would also tell us if there was research that was missing, or if there were other issues we should consider, and most importantly, that it would give us a list of sources that were accurate. And so once we developed that internally, we started thinking, oh, this would actually be really useful
Mhm.
to any, like we have a website search function, but like with a lot of website searches, what happens is you enter in a search term, say, plant-based diets, and you might get hundreds of results, or 1,000 results. Way too many things for the average person to read through and understand what is best for them. And so I started to develop the front end interface for the lens, which is like a lot of AI LLM tools, like a chat interface. You can go to the chat, you can ask it specific questions. You don't even have to have like a full question. You can just enter a few terms, and what happens in the background is that it reformulates everything that you're putting in as an animal advocacy question, and gives you a response that's geared towards advocacy. It will also tell you where research is lacking, where there are gaps, and it will give you a full list of sources. So it's the front end development was, I mean, I have a background in coding, but also Claude Code was very helpful in developing the front end. So it was a pretty fascinating process. But now that it's launched, we're looking at, well, one, we want people to use it as much as possible, but we also um, are looking into different ways it can be integrated into the website. Like maybe we can integrate a smaller version of it into a specific study, for example, if someone wants to like go very deep on a particular research study that might be 200 pages long,
Right.
that they can go deep into that data set and get uh, answers to their questions.
Yeah. I think my daughter was playing with that, with asking a lot of questions and
Oh, cool.
uh, with a one line, two line, to one word, as you said, and then sentences trying to understand. I told her, hey, this is the tool if you want to really do something in animal advocacy, just ask any questions. And
Oh, that's
so
awesome. That's
she,
awesome to hear. I love that.
yeah. So thank you for sharing that, and fascinating to hear when you conceptualize a project and go live, and you see the usage, right? So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like it started as something that we thought would be a really useful internal tool. And then as we developed it internally, we realized, oh, this would actually be very useful to like externally to other
Yeah,
people.
general
So
public.
uh,
Yeah,
very
true.
happy about that. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing something like Lens for public.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm very, very happy to do so, and I'm happy that you're finding it useful.
So, could AI be any NGO, probably in the animal advocacy movement, um, like a research assistant?
I mean, I think that I certainly see AI as a powerful research tool. I see LLMs as a powerful research tool, but similar to any tool, like they can be used well and they can be used poorly.
Yeah,
Um, I think the danger is that, which I think you alluded to a little bit before, is that um, we need to be sure that we're maintaining our critical thinking skills and not using AI and LLMs in particular to offload our thinking. I
yeah,
mean, at times when I've used LLMs more intensively, I am a writer and I write all the time. At, During times when I've used LLMs more intensively, I can feel my like writing muscles getting weaker and weaker,
yeah.
and it's I think that that's a very real danger. And so I try as much as possible to make sure that for all of the positive uses of LLMs, that I'm not offloading my most valuable skills to those. And yeah, I mean, I think that the ability to do research is a skill. And when we offload that skill to LLMs and see what they give to us as a definitive answer, we are going to slowly lose that skill. So I think it's important to like to go, like, yes, certainly consider it an assistant, certainly consider it as like a way of bouncing ideas back and forth or that sort of thing. But it's not the only tool in your toolbox. The biggest tool in your toolbox is up here, and so it's very important to keep using that muscle, keep using those tools.
A quick coffee break. If you're enjoying this conversation, there's a good chance you're going to enjoy what's coming next too. And here is something interesting. A lot of people watching Caffelogue with Naga haven't subscribed yet. So if you're one of them, this is your little reminder. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. It takes a second. And it helps us bring much more curious minds and conversations like this to you. All right, let's get back to the conversation. The coffee break is over.
Well said. Yeah, I think it's also something which I keep telling my kids, and also in general for everybody, especially the growing generation, because it's important.
Yeah.
They don't lose their thinking skills, because it's easy
Hmm.
to get answers from them, but it's your creativity is lost. So I think
Hmm.
when I think you probably, we used to grow up with Renan Martin and the Oxford Dictionary. So today I give exercise to my son to actually, okay, when any word you want to learn, just I want you to find in the dictionary, not anywhere
Hmm.
else.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think it's somehow to see what other ways you can actually keep thinking. But even you can write on your own, don't have to rely on yeah, I think that I see that's one way, as aspect of the AI which I'm really worried about, in terms of how it's impacting the growing children, or in
Hmm.
this generation, especially with writing. I don't think so anybody writes these days. So, like, I still use pen and paper. So everybody's become Google Notes notebook, and everything is digital now. So yeah, I think it's, in a way, I feel that, when you write, your brain is activated when you take pen and paper and write in your notebook. So that's a different way of wiring your brain, and it actually creates a
Absolutely.
lot of thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is a when I hear people say like, I'm not a good writer and so I use AI to write, my reaction is always like, you don't have to be a writer. Like you
Yeah.
don't, there's nothing saying that you need to be a writer. And yeah, we can tell that AI wrote it. It's very to me, I mean, as someone that uses LLMs pretty frequently, it's very easy to tell when something is AI written to me. Um, yeah.
True. Cool. I think the last question on the AI, I think this is also one more question I wanted to pick your brain, because I was fascinated by this research, and also your one of the conference you actually talked about the sentient, the use of AI and how it's impacting, and how why it's important for the sentient. Look at all the sentient beings and what is happening in the AI world, and the research and the funding. So I was part of the Sentient Futures fellowship. So I
Mm-hmm.
did recently. So I think I've gone through a lot of specifically on how technology and AI is having a how we can actually have an impact, or how AI is actually behaving. Because I've also tested with prompts, like as you said, different questions, different times, and also same questions, or when you what do you say when you just write chicken, what did it says, or when
Mm-hmm.
you just
Mm-hmm.
write something, whether it really understands is as a sentient beings, or it's just things as a food. So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different ways I've tried to look at, but I want to look at the ethical risks, what we have to watch for from an AI, especially in the animal advocacy movement. What we need, everybody needs to be aware of, not necessarily that you have to be part of this movement, but in general, what is the adverse risks you see it happening today, and how
Mm.
Funalytics is addressing, or anything which you're doing from that.
Yeah, I mean, Phonologics is not involved in any sort of like AI sentience research or anything like that. And although I think that that is certainly like an interesting topic, my concern always remains with animals, and it's something that I'm very like personally interested in. Like I think it's and part of the I joked around with a friend of mine about this recently, that part of the reason I like thinking about AI sentience is because it helps me to understand what the average person thinks of animal sentience. Because when I start to think of AI sentience, I start to think there's no way it's possible.
Hmm.
Oh yes, well, even if it tells you it's sentient, it's not really having consciousness, or it's not really having an experience. And these are the same arguments that people use about non-human animals, right?
Hmm.
When we hear animals cry out in pain, people will still say, oh, they're not really experiencing pain. It's something else. It's a different thing. And so I like thinking about AI sentience as a thought experiment because it helps me to kind of understand speciesism better. As far as what I see in terms of its like practical application, I am interested in it insofar as it could be helpful to animals. If extending sort of, shall we say, like rights to AI systems is something that we can use as a stepping stone to extend rights to non-human animals, then I'm very interested in that. As far as just AI sentience for its own sake, though, it's not the most high priority issue for me.
Got it.
I
But
appreciate
there
that.
is an ethical risk.
I appreciate that people are working on it. But it's yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that, but there is an ethical risk you see as a future. I mean, there is a in the way AI is heading from a sentient being standpoint, or do you see that still we have to wait for the data to come in, or how it behaves?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are still researching it. It's still it's such a brand new topic
Topic. Yeah.
that I think there's still so much uncertainty. I think that uh, obviously it would necessitate a complete reworking of how we interact with AI if it were sentient, right? Like
Hmm.
currently, right now, the way a lot of people use AI is as a digital assistant. And so if AI were determined to be sentient, like, I early on in my working life, I was like a union organizer. So if AI is sentient, like, should AI be able to participate in unionization? Should it be able to have labor rights? Should we be able to give AI breaks in labor? What are, it has it's such a broad range of other effects if we take those questions seriously. And so
Got it.
again, it's outside of the scope of what my day-to-day work and Faunalytics day-to-day work, but I know some of the people working on this stuff, and it's definitely a fascinating topic.
Thank you. Thanks for the perspective.
Yeah.
So I think you have seen different generations over so many years.
Hmm.
Like I've seen from the 80s to 90s to right now the Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So do you think Gen Zs are the most compassionate generation?
You'd have to ask them. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I
Or you see
um
this generation today is trying to, at least, I mean, I'm just trying to look at from the way
mhm,
people are behaving outside, or what kind of ethical or moral values they are trying to, are probably, I see much more people are questioning a lot these days. So that's
mhm,
something which I see, not just
mhm.
accepting what is the status quo or however they are.
Yeah, it's funny because in my personal life, I work with a lot of younger people in the arts community, and I try my best in that work to not assume that what's happening now is special, because
Hmm.
I remember being their age, in my early 20s, and questioning everything as well, and being very concerned about the environment and concerned about things like war and poverty and things like that. And so is the current generation more that way, or am I just getting older? Like, it's so I try not to confuse my age and the perspective that I have as someone in my 40s now with
Hmm.
reality. um, it's just that I've gotten older, and so my perspective has shifted. And I do think that people get more. I mean, I've watched many people that I know get more conservative as they get older. I haven't. I've probably gotten, I think in some ways I've probably gotten more radical as I've gotten older, but that's unusual. And I think that um, as we get older, we start to look at the younger generation as more radical and questioning everything, and society is changing so quickly. And maybe those things are always true. Maybe, I mean, certainly the last 200 years of industrialization and things like that around the world have been um, very, world changing. The world has changed a lot in the last 200 years at a pace that seems to be always getting faster. And
Yep.
so I think it's reasonable to look at Gen Z, for example, and think like, oh, they're questioning things so much more than we ever have. But I think about time periods like the 60s or the 70s or the 80s, and I think, I don't know, things were there was a lot of questioning happening back then too. So yeah, I don't know. I've certainly seen in the data that Gen Z is much more open to maybe not necessarily like vegan ethics, but more like animal welfare, more animal protection, more interested in plant-based eating. And I think that that's partly due to the world that they're growing up in being more open to those things.
Got it.
Yeah.
True. I mean, yeah, it's yeah. I think you have given a different dimension in terms of your how do you look at. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. No, before that, I want to say I think as a part of I'm running a company called Advanced Hybrid Vision Intelligence. So I'm trying to say, let's say if a company like us want to collaborate with Analytics and being part of something a meaningful research, like what do you think would be the best way to do?
Yeah, I mean, we do get approached fairly regularly for research collaboration and things like that. And because of that, we have a process by which
Hmm.
we choose studies and prioritize different topics. We tend to, for our original research partnerships, we tend to focus on studies that affect a large number of animals, that have a high potential for impact,
Hmm.
and that are, within a scope that we can do, right? Sometimes people approach us with study topics or ideas that are just way too big for us to handle. We're a small team, and we can't do everything. And so there is a process by which people would sort of send us an idea, and we would include it on our list of topics, and then we go through an internal process to select studies.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
That's good to know. So I think I'll call this as last brew. I'll quickly ask you, like, what's the one belief you held for a long time, probably, that you have completely changed right now, or anything which has changed over a period, or your mind?
That animal that that a positive world for animals will only change because of our efforts. I think that a lot of animal advocacy issues that we see shifting, in many ways, are shifting outside of our control. So, for something like animals used in science, I don't think that protest and things like that are going to change it. I believe that protests are important to show that public opinion is on the side of eliminating it. But it's going to be technical solutions that solve that problem for us.
Got it. Wow. That's an interesting answer. Okay, so my next question is, okay, this is again related to what we spoke before the rapid fire. So if your younger self met you today, what would surprise him the most?
um, how much I'm willing to listen to and absorb information from the other side. How much I read of industry publications and things like that. I think that would surprise my younger and my more angry self.
That's interesting. Cool. What's something people consistently, I don't know whether they misunderstood or probably something they didn't connect to about your work? Anything you can think of, or any questions which has surprised you? Okay, hey, how did they ask this?
Uh, no, hmm, I think the biggest thing that surprises me is that people still think there is sort of one solution to
Mm.
the problem of animal advocacy. One of the questions that we get most frequently is someone asking, "What is the best way to get people to go vegan?" And the answer is always, it depends on who you're talking to. There is no one right answer. There are as many right answers as there are
Yeah,
people.
true. What's one research finding that probably shocked you over the years?
We have a study that's coming out next. Actually, that's coming out tomorrow. So I'm not. So I don't think this will be posted before then, so that I'm allowed to talk about this.
Okay.
Um, have a study that's coming out tomorrow that looked at different terminology for animal agriculture. And
Hmm.
one of the things we found is that people's association with the term factory farming is not necessarily as negative as we thought,
Hmm.
and that there are other terms. I won't give it away. You got to read the study.
Okay, I'll
There are
note it
there
down.
are there are other terms that are actually more effective in communicating an advocacy message than factory farming.
Got it. Interesting. Wow. I'll wait for the report tomorrow. So, technology advancements to reduce suffering, or banning factory farming, or the other term you're talking about? So, which do you choose?
um, I mean, from like an ethical vegan perspective, I would rather see factory farming abolished
Yeah.
than incorporating technical solutions to reduce suffering. I think but I also think that banning factory farming, I think the biggest thing that people don't really understand is that we can have a world that is significantly better for animals, but we can't have that world if all of us continue to consume the same amount of meat that we do now. People want to sort of have animals be treated well and also not change their behavior. The world would be a significantly better place if people, even if people didn't give up eating meat, if they cut down their meat consumption to one meal per week or something like that, we would be significantly further along.
Small steps you can
Hmm.
contribute for a better
Yep.
world. Yeah, true.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. If everyone accepted one scientific fact tomorrow, what would have the greatest positive impact on animals? So that's the last.
Yeah, I mean, I know that this calling it a scientific fact is maybe up for debate, but we read more and more research all the time that animals experience emotions, that
Mhm.
animals feel pain, that animals are, in the broadest sense, sentient beings. And I think if people really took that seriously, it would have a big impact on how they behave.
Great. I mean, it's a very powerful topic. We
Hmm.
can have another session on that
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Great. I think it's such a pleasure having you, Carol, and talking about Funalytics and your journey and a lot of insights which I've learned through this conversation. So thank you
Yeah,
so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Naga, and I appreciate having this platform to speak to people who follow your show. And of course, if anyone wants to reach out to me, Karol at faunalytics.org, Karol at faunalytics.org, and of course, visit our website. And thank you to all of your listeners for sitting with us through some technical difficulties and other things which might be edited out. But
Yes,
I've appreciated the conversation very much.
definitely. Thank you so much. I think I loved it, and definitely we'll meet probably in 6 months in terms of what the new initiatives Funalytics is up to, and for sure,
There you go.
welcome you
Happy
back.
to. Happy to.
All right. Have a wonderful day
Okay.
ahead. See you.
Thank you so much, Naga.
If this conversation made you think differently, challenged your perspective, or inspired you in some way, I would love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Share this episode with someone who might find value in it. And don't forget to subscribe to Caffelogue with Naga for more conversations at the intersection of technology, purpose, compassion, and positive change. Thank you for being part of this journey.